After the Industrial Revolution, the United States became a world power for one of the first times. We're going to have all of this new technology. We have expanded all the way across to the Pacific coast. So as a result of this expansion, we are going to start to see more and more American involvement in other nations. We're going to start to see more Americans wanting to spread into other areas of the world. So one of the first examples of this is the Spanish-American War. So the essential question I want you to keep in mind when you're taking these notes is, how did the Spanish-American War influence history? So, rebellion against Spain. Throughout the 1800s, the Spanish Empire was just crumbling. We remember at one point, the majority of the United States was run by Spain, and Spain had all of these different colonies all over the place. By the 1800s, they only had a few colonies left. By 1890, it was really just these three. It was the Philippines, Cuba, and Puerto Rico. Okay, and these countries are going to really start to fight for their independence. They want to be free from Spain. They want to be able to make their own rules, make their own decisions. So the first group that really revolted was the Cubans. And they revolted against their government and were greatly punished as a result of that. Obviously, their revolt was not very successful. Thousands and thousands of Cubans ended up being put into camps where they starved and oftentimes died as a result of their starvation. The United States does not like this, of course. Cuba is right there, right south of the United States. It's close beside us, and we do a lot of trade with Cuba. Specifically, sugar was a big part of Cuba. So the United States was really upset that that trade was disrupted during this time period. So the American press starts to get involved with it. Newspapers are going to start to publish these horrible stories about what is going on in Cuba and how poorly the Spanish are treating the Cubans. So Americans start to really start to feel passionately about this. That journalism, that really exaggerated journalism, is called yellow journalism. And that comes from a comic strip that ran in the New York Times that featured a very popular character called the Yellow Kid. So the U.S. finally goes to war. The president at the time in the United States was William McKinley. He did not want to go to war. Most presidents don't want to go to war. They, kind of see it as a blemish on their records. But due to that yellow journalism, all of that fanatical stuff that people are hearing, Americans are really going to start to push for war. We wanted to fight. We wanted to get in there and show them what we're made of. So eventually we do go to war. The first step that McKinley makes in all of this is, of course, he delivers speeches and proclamations about how the Spanish need to be nicer to the Cubans. But then he's going to send down the USS Maine, which was a battleship. And it's going to be right there in Havana Harbor, right outside of Cuba. A month later, the Maine exploded and sank in Havana Harbor, and 260 sailors were killed in this process. Obviously, Americans did not respond well to the fact that these soldiers had died down in Havana Harbor. So nobody really knows what caused the explosion of the Maine. A lot of historians think that it was an accident. There have been stories that there might have been some kind of explosion with one of the boilers. So there really could have been anything that happened with this. But Americans are going to take that sinking of the Maine as a direct attack. So they're going to start to use this battle cry, "Remember the Maine," to fuel even more fire against the Spanish. So on April 28th of 1898, McKinley is going to call for Cuba's independence. He's going to demand that the Spanish forces withdraw from the area. He gave Spain 3 days to respond to that demand for them to be removed. Spain gives no response to McKinley. They don't even acknowledge that he exists. So, as a result of this, the Spanish-American War begins. So the two big areas that we're going to see fighting is in the Philippines and in the Caribbean. The Philippines, we're going to see the first major battle taking place there. Mainly that was because the Spanish fleet, naval fleet, was located in the Philippines.
Antonio Strickland, go to carpool, your mother's there. Antonio Strickland, go to carpool, your mother's there.